Hi guys, hope this production finds you well. This is another tale from inside my numb skull, and it takes me back to the late 80s, early 90s. I'm not exactly sure of the time frame anymore. It's a very eclectic life that I've led. Now, the thing is about being a big personality and having a lot going on in your mind at any one time, you can get yourself into trouble. And when I say you can, I mean me, because I have a big mouth and I sometimes say what I think with no filter, and that causes me trouble. So, late 80s, early 90s, whenever this time frame was, I was working at a butcher's in Lincoln. So, for those that don't know me very well, Lincoln is in England, in Lincolnshire, which is a big county, farming county. And for a number of years, I worked as a butcher, qualified on how to cook meat and how to serve in a shop and that sort of thing. Now, I worked for this gentleman, and I'll call him that because as the years have passed by, I've managed to deal with any sort of grumpiness regarding having worked for him. So we had a coming together, and we had a disagreement where he left me with this slogan, I think, that's lived long in my mind. And I disagreed with his statement and said to him that I thought he was being rather unfair with me and he'd not been very supportive. And he said to me, "Look, son," he said, "there are 3 million unemployed in this country at this moment, and 2,999,000 of them are butchers. So take it or leave it," type of thing. So I, in a shop full of customers, told him to stick the job where the sun doesn't shine and give them the opportunity to give the job to somebody who really was interested. So I walked out of the shop, and like with the usual form that was before and has followed me ever since, I didn't have a plan. So I went on to the dole, or as it's now termed as universal credit, and I didn't know what on earth to do. I was in a relationship where I was living with somebody and still had to provide and bring money in, and I was a little bit stuck, a little bit lost. So this goes on for a number of months, and then the DHSS, as it was known there, contacted me at some point during that duration and said, "Right, what are your plans for getting back into work?" Well, I'd done a couple of jobs on farms and things like that, and I'd done some labouring and this, that and the other, but there was nothing sort of coming out of that I could build on my experiences. So I'm doing the usual run of going to the job centre and having a look round to see if there's anything that would suit my circumstance. And you have to document what you're doing for your support to continue. So it comes to the point where I'm issued with an ultimatum that I need to find something or my dole will be reduced. So I looked at training. I looked at how I could process my life forward, how I could get myself into this rut that I'd got myself into, and then equally how I could get myself out of it. So I look at this board, and there's an opportunity to go training to do your own business. Right. So over here it's known as blagging when you haven't got any ideas. And I went to this business meeting. So I walked into this business place, and for this, what I'd committed to was you would do 30 something hours in preparation for this business, and they would continue to pay you, but you'd also get £10 expenses on the top of it. So I thought, right, okay. So I get to this venue in Lincoln, and there are a lot of people around there that are very clever people. And I don't know about you guys, but whenever you've been around a meeting or anything like that where you have to introduce yourself, I call it like the wall of death, because there's just this fear of crashing when you stand up if you're not used to communicating with people. So they went round each individual person and they said, "What are you here for? What is your business pitch?" And as it crept closer and closer to me, this fear of dread had started to creep up on me, because I hadn't got any plans. I hadn't worked through any systems. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. So when it came round to me, I sat there for a minute, stuttered and stammered, and I said that, right, I would like to start my own business. They were the first words out of my mouth, and as I've just said earlier, I hadn't done any planning or anything like that. So the first question out of the presenter's mouth was, what have you done in preparation for this? To which my mind went completely blank. Give us an idea, he said. What is your pitch? Because then once we know what your pitch is, we can get you to go forward, and we can access the help that you need. So off the top of my head, I went, I'd like to be a children's entertainer. So there's a collective gasp in the room. What do you mean by that? I said, well, when you get clowns that go to parties and things like that, where they entertain the children and they do some magic tricks and they do some balloon animals and things like that. Well, I just think that that's what I would like to do. Right, so what would you need to start up that business? This is where I'm really, really floundering. And I'm sat there and I'm going, I've not even thought about this, not even considered it, because it was all being made up on the spot. So I said, well, at this particular point, I can't drive, so I'm going to need driving lessons. He went, oh, yeah, we can help you with that. And then it will be looking at maybe a loan for a vehicle to transport goods and things around. Right, this is all looking good. Maybe allowances towards makeup and costumes and things like that. I was like, oh, yes, right. So you need to work on presenting this. Right, so I sat there for a number of weeks watching these people putting this pitch together of how they were going to sell themselves, how they were going to get the business online, how they were going to raise finance, and all of this stuff went right over my head. I was so caught up in not wanting to go out there and work for 40 hours and only get paid £10 for it that I've not stopped to think the situation that I'd got myself in. So the day of reckoning comes, where I'm called into the office and sat down there one-on-one with the people that are presenting this situation to me. And they said to me, you don't seem very committed. And I said, well, to be perfectly honest, I'm out of my depth. I came up with something that I'd love to do, but there's no real substance to it. So he said, what are you about? What is the thing that drives you? Well, throughout my life, I've always done impressions, and I've told jokes and just been a presence where I've made people laugh. So he said, could you put something together then that would be like that? What do you think would be a good step for you? And I went, well, I don't really know. It's not something I've ever really put that much thought to. So he said, well, what I suggest from hearing from you is that we fix you up with some people that are actually on the circuit. And then if you can put all of that together, that might be the way you can put a package together, and then you could get funding for it. So I'm like, okay, right, fine, fair enough. So what then happens is I end up going for a meeting with the Magic Circle. Now, if you're not sure who the Magic Circle are, the Magic Circle are a bunch of magicians and people that do tricks, and they've got a long-standing history, and they are a very proud institution, if you like. So I turns up at another venue in Lincoln with all of these gentlemen, and we're in this darkened room, and in the middle of this darkened room is a stage where you can stand up. So, young man, well, I was young once, what are you here for? Well, I'd like to learn magic. Right, so what magic do you do? Well, at that point, none whatsoever. So I had about 20 minutes, half an hour with somebody, and they went through a couple of magic tricks. They were very welcoming and very supportive. Right, now, what's your stagecraft like? Well, at that point, absolutely none. Right, absolutely none whatsoever. But because you're in that situation, you're kind of cast in there, you're in that environment, you've got to get on with it. So I stood up on that stage, knees knocking together, armed with this new information that I'd been given, and I did a couple of magic tricks while also impersonating Paul Daniels. Now this, and I'm going to put this in inverted commas even though I don't like this, ordeal, because that's what it was for me, lasted for a couple of minutes. And they were very gracious and very kind as I did my Paul Daniels impression, the magician, and did the trick that they taught me. So that's logged in as part of my hours for this course that I've gone on, so I go back. Right. You're a likeable person, they've said. You could do with some training and you could do with some guidance, and they enjoyed your company. Right, so that was lovely. So what's next? Right, I think what we will do is we will book you with a children's entertainer. Now I'm like, oh my word, this is getting really real. Anyway, fortunately for me, that didn't happen. So I then go into this weekly meeting to be asked, what is your ambition? I said, well, my ambition is to appear on stage. I've always wanted to be a comedian. I've always wanted to be a show off and do my own work on stage and just shine a light, just bring in upliftment and laughter. So this is where it gets all nervous and things like that, because what happens then is, right, I'm going to give you some opportunity to put down some stuff together and write out like a sketch, do some jokes, put some impressions together. So there's a room full now of about 10 people, and I'm really on the spot because I've had to completely make this up. Right. And I do, at that particular time and in that era, there was a number of impressions that I believed I could do really well. So I did all of these impressions for people in there, and I made up a few jokes and told a few jokes that I'd heard and things like that, and they were really well received. So that started to lift my confidence a little bit. So they were all looking, right, where can we progress this to? So what happens next is, right, I know somebody who knows somebody that puts on acts at pubs. Okay. So what I want you to do is I'm going to ring this person and I want you to do your impressions down the phone. And I kid you not, this is as true as I'm sat here. I was terrified. So this place was rung up and this gentleman answered, and it was put on speakerphone. In the days of the old phones, guys, if you can remember them, it was put on speakerphone. And I did my impressions down the phone. And this guy went, no, yeah, okay. It was a strange one because it's obvious, if you can't see somebody's reactions, it's difficult. And what came about from those impressions was, I'm willing to give you an audition. So come down and do it live. But what I want from you, 30 minutes of comedy, 30 minutes of sketches and impressions. So far, okay, right, I'm all right with that. And then he drops the bombshell. 30 minutes or 15 to 30 minutes of singing. Now, I have a deep voice. I have a strong voice. But whether it's a voice that is going to draw money or going to impress people, that's the bit that I'm not sure of. So bearing in mind, like I've told you at the beginning of this story, I'd worked a blag. I'd worked this all the way along based on not wanting to go back on the dole or do anything that was hard work for that extra £10. I wanted something that had got substance and was going to make me money. And I have now to put my big boy pants on and make this decision whether this is actually going to go anywhere. So I go home and I spend time drawing up sketches. I do my impressions. I work on my impressions. I put some things together, so I've got a bit of a script. And I make my way down to this particular venue My stomach is all over the place. My nerves, my anticipation are, oh dear. I always call it, my bum was knitting me a new jumper because I was just so scared, so nervous. My stomach was making some really weird gurgling noises. So I get down there, and I suppose one of the things that's fortunate is that I live in a county where it's very rarely do we get really bad weather that stops us in the tracks. We're sort of protected by some quite big hills round our area. Anyway, on this rare occasion, there was a lot of snow. So I get down to this place, I go into the car park, and my stomach is, as I say, really, really nervous. I'm gathering my thoughts as I'm stood in the doorway of what I'm going to do. So I'd got my sketch, I'd got my impressions all there backed up in my mind. The singing, I just thought, well, I'll get them to chuck a song at me and I will just do the best I can with it, and they can judge me from that. I go through the door and I'm met by the manager, the guy that's going to give me my audition, and he went, he said, I'm very, very sorry. He said that I've got you down here. He said, but unfortunately, I'm very, very short-staffed today because of the weather. And there was a lot of low-lying snow. So the car park was difficult for people to get into. The car park was difficult for his staff to get into. So it was just him on the day. So he said, I'm very sorry for getting you down here. We will have to reschedule. Now, there's part of me that was really relieved because I didn't feel prepared. So we go on to the rescheduling, and this has only ever happened twice to me in my life. So what happened was that I lost my voice. I got laryngitis. I couldn't speak. So through somebody else, I had to go back to him and say, I'm sorry, I can't make this week because I can't speak. And I really couldn't. It's very rare that I'm lost for words over anything. Third week comes, and this is where the truth and the reality really hits me. That this this bluff had run its course, and I bottled out. I chickened out, and I never went back. I never followed up on doing any of this sort of work and going on stage and showing my true potential. And like I talk about a lot on my work about shining my own light. So I find this really quite ironic that I'm sat here talking to you today on camera, that I am a full-time working medium and psychic, and I do a lot of stage work. The only singing I tend to have done is on church services, and when I've gone into the spiritual community, I do like to sing, but it will never be a paid presentation. But that was my first brush with showbiz, right? And I always think, careful what you wish for, guys, because you might just get it. You know, you are pulled out on some of the words that you say, so be very sure that if you're going to say something dramatic, that you've got the ammunition and the skills to back it up with. I am none the worse for the experience. It's stood me in good stead for working and doing the things that I do. I'm now 30 plus years on and still very nervous when I get up and stand in front of people. But the thing is about it all now is that I've got the experience to back that up. No, it doesn't always go right, but it doesn't stop me either from shining. And the reason that I wanted to keep making these videos is to get you guys to know me. So if you come to me to have a reading with me, I will work on your skills and your talents, and I will bring out whatever the cards have got. If you come and have a session with me that's doing guidance, which is helping you structure your thoughts and work within certain time frames that you set up, I'll support you. And the truth is that I'm very mixed emotionally, but I always put people first. And I've come from a place of experience where you've gone through from having an idea and having obstacles thrown into your pathway, and that you've got nervous. And it's looking at about how you process who you are. So thank you sincerely for watching this. If you've managed to get through to the end, it's just another page in my eclectic life. How the thoughts in my numbskull go from actions to results, and how I negotiate and get on my pathway. So my feelings, my thoughts are, as I end this video, is don't restrict yourself. Shine like the stars that you are. Don't let the buggers ever grind you down. And if in doubt, just keep going. Keep putting one foot in front of the other, because the destination might not always be clear, but the journey is fascinating. So thank you for listening to me, Rick Paul, the urban angel, psychic, medium, and whatever else I am. And bless you for indulging me. Thanks a lot, guys. Goodbye.